Welcome to round 2 of the 2014 Bridgestone 4x4 Club Challenge. This round is hosted by the Suzuki Auto Club of South Africa and a small army of Suzuki 4x4s lined up for the start at the Rus de Winter 4x4 trail north of Pretoria. The operative word here is small because the Suzuki Jimnys and SJs are all pint-sized 4x4s that are surprisingly capable no matter the conditions. With a few entries to spare, some Bridgestone 4x4 Challenge regulars also made the journey to Rus de Winter. This included former winners Sean Niemand in a Jeep Wrangler TJ and Adrian Okamp in a Range Rover V8. But let's get the Suzuki party started. And as always, it kicks off with scrutineering. Once this is completed, the teams head out to the first obstacle. To get to the obstacles, the teams first had to forge a river, as this marshal in a Suzuki Jimny demonstrates most admirably. And so arrives Range Rover man Adrian Okamp and co-driver Cameron Engelbrecht. Adrian did not see the Jimny cross the water, and he's clearly aware that one should always check the depth of the water before attempting to drive through, especially with a few spectators and cameras at hand. So he smartly sends Cameron on his way. Cameron, however, seems more bothered about water coming into contact with sensitive body parts rather than watching out for crocodiles and sharks and so on. Anyway, all's well that ends well, and the Rangy gets through the water. Off we go to the first real obstacle. Our first customers are Jan and Marcus van Heerden in a Grand Vitara. In the cabin, Jan can hardly contain his excitement as he sets off, with Marcus providing some direction. On this obstacle, the teams have to pilot their 4x4s through some seemingly impossible narrow gates, while traversing a climb, some ruts, and a few tight turns. In other words, a nice little warm-up for the challenge ahead. Unfortunately, the GV assassinates that last pole after taking out a few along the way. The end result is not a lot of points, I'm afraid.
I've got some points, let me put it that way.
Score is 25 points for this competitor now.
I'm happy I've got 25. So things can only improve from here. Hopefully.
This may look like a Jeep, but it's not quite a Jeep. Instead, it's a Mahindra Thar, campaigned by Kobus Boerma and Wayne Harvey. This souped-up Thar has a lot more ground clearance than the standard Suzuki GV, so it can tackle this obstacle at a bit more speed. Let's see if it helps. The team hits 2 poles along the way, so that's only 50 points in the bank. And here's another Thar, this time piloted by Sudhir Misra and Yuri de Priya. This Jeep lookalike also has plenty of clearance, so Sudhir simply has to aim it through those narrow gates without getting bogged down in one of those holes. And Sudhir hits the second pole as well. So that's also 50 points in the bag for the second Mahindra.
Car is not the problem, the driver is.
Next are Richard Boertus and Robert Oerdendaal in a Landy Defender 110. Richard and Robert are the first team to notice some strategically placed rubbish on the track, which is in fact a cunning move from the organisers to see if their competitors will firstly notice it and secondly attempt to remove it. Doing so will result in full marks in the environmental section, and the Landy team is the first to score points in that section. Unfortunately, it doesn't go quite as well for the long Landy on the obstacle, as Richard takes out 3 poles, So that's just 25 points on the scorecard. This is rolled for Mark and Sharon Lawson, who are in a customized Suzuki Grand Vitara V6. Obstacle 2 starts with a tight turn, followed by a steep climb with an axle twister along the way. Rolled has a watertight game plan.
Yeah, I think it's maybe not designed with the GV in mind, but I've got traction control, so I'm just going to give it my best and see what I can do.
The GV starts well enough, but cannot make the turn. Rolled adds some good old momentum to the deal. And despite some wheels bagging Voyager miles, the Zook V6 gets up. With an impressive 80 points in the bag, Rolled seemed to be extremely focused on the matter at hand.
It's fun. It's all it's about. I'm here with my wonderful girlfriend, so we're having fun.
And a nice kiss.
Our next customers are Werner and Arno Skarp in a Jeep Wrangler Rubicon. These shorty Jeeps have got all the off-road tricks in the book, including front and rear lockers and traction control. So if Werner can make that first turn, he should bag a 100-pointer. And no, that turn is just too tight. And he also has to take a stop and a roll back. Now he gets up, with Arno acting as pointsman. And through the Jeep goes, with no more penalties.
This was very, very close. Turning circle was just not 100%. But 15 points is fine. 85 for us in the pocket.
This is Obstacle 3 of the Suzuki Auto Club of SA's Bridgestone 4x4 Club Challenge event. And it's a really tough climb. Here's the next team. But hang on, that's Bilbo Baggins. Okay, not really. It's actually Victor Rundle and Adam Griffiths. Right, Bagginses, let's see what you're made of. And up the little red Jimny goes, now for the slippery descent and getting the Suzuki through those awkwardly positioned poles. While the Bagginses work their way through this one, it may be apt to quote Bilbo Baggins at this time. Bilbo famously said in The Lord of the Rings, "Now I know what a piece of bacon feels like when it's suddenly picked out of a pan on a fork and put back on the shelf." Indeed. And finally the Jimnys through, but with 0 points scored. So how was that, Mr. Baggins?
No, it's terrible, especially when you start sliding.
Here's the next Jimny, piloted by Henry Barnes and Frans Labuschagne. Let's see if they fare better here. Up they go, easily enough. But that slippery descent is also undoing of them, as the Jimny slides and comprehensively takes out one pole. With all the stops and rollbacks and dead poles in their wake, the team scores 30 points, a whole 30 more than the Bagginsons. The Gelanderwagen clan was also represented at this round, and seasoned competitors Graham Yupp and Johan Marks had a cunning plan. After scaling the climb, put the right wheels on that ledge, which already lines the 4x4 up for the next gate. Nifty work there, and it bags the Benz team 100 points. This is obstacle 4. Here the team simply had to answer a question.
You've been bitten by a snake, what do you do?
Here is Dr. Colin Rautenbach, assisted by nurse Susan Carter.
What
I
else?
don't know, I've seen a lot of this stuff on TV, but make a small incision and try and get some of the stuff out, I don't know.
Oh dear, Wiki Susie's only able to mention 4 valid steps to take out of a possible 10, so that's just 40 points added to their tally. This is obstacle 5, and it's a tough one. It consists of some mud, some more mud, and a few poles in between. For each gate the teams manage to pass, they score 20 points. This is Gerard Sneeman and Lucas Janssen van Rensburg in a small and light Jimny, and they get halfway through the mud. This is a Jeep Wrangler with a big 6 petrol engine that has plenty of horses, specialized Firestone mud terrain tires, and a driver that isn't scared to employ said horses. Armand Skarp and Barend Vermeulen become one of only a handful of powerful 4x4s to make it through this mud trap and score maximum points. Back in the Suzuki camp, this is Natalie Shepherd and Brett Bailey, who also get about halfway through the sticky mess. And here's Conrad and Herman Oakham in another Jimny. But despite Conrad's slightly more enthusiastic approach, the Oakhams just managed to get past the halfway mark.
Very slippy, but not too bad.
No, Herman, you don't need to recover the door. Here's rolled for Mark again, and after a particularly enthusiastic attempt at the mud with underinflated tyres, he's fixing a de-beaded mud tyre. Whilst Rold is busy with the spanner work, let's hear from his sweetheart Sharon. What's going on with that tyre?
It's just off the thing in the middle, I don't know what you call it. I have no idea.
This is obstacle 6, and here are the 2 Lichtenbergians, Wimpy Olivier and Jaco van Sale. Here the teams have to reverse up a steep slope and simply nudge a pole, without nudging it too much to touch another pole. A Lichtenbergian makes a plan, they say, and it seems as if Wimpy and Jaco have created their own Lichtenbergian operational one-time pole avoidance position system, or loop apps. Wow, these Lichtenbergians are really innovative. Let's see how well this will work. Okay, so maybe the loop app system didn't work so well. At obstacle 7, the teams have to contend with a rather slippery side slope situation. Try saying that after 3 beers. A sinker on a piece of fishing line is dangled from the front end of the vehicle, as the Bagginses in their Jimny demonstrate here. There are 3 markers on the slope, and the teams have to try and align the sinker and stop with it hanging directly over the markers. Sounds easy, but as you can see here, it's anything but easy. Bagginses bag, 0 points. This is Paul and Amanda Dutoy in a Jimny. Let's see if they can do better than a 0. That's close, but no cigar. And And that's also so close, but not close enough. Crikey, the De Toys also score 0 points. This is obstacle 8, and here the teams have to take their 4x4s for a walk. Yes, literally, take their 4x4s for a walk, as Ivan Lerm and Andries Kemp demonstrate. The co-driver is supposed to sit in the driver's seat and operate only the pedals, while the driver must steer the vehicle while walking next to it and not touching any poles or bunting. The team score 100 points in the little Jimny. But what about a much bigger 4x4, like a Jeep Grand Cherokee for instance? Well then, you need the dexterity of a ballerina to get through here, as Danny will now demonstrate. Despite Danny's best intentions, the Jeep demolishes 2 poles, so that's only 50 points scored. Obstacle 9 is a concrete business of cross axles in between those omnipresent poles. Luckily, Tony van den Berg has a plan. Tony gets off to a cracking start, seemingly maintaining the ideal of momentum without getting stuck in the Jimny, which has no front or rear locking differentials. And he's through without getting hung up.
Score! 100, yay!
One driver that believes that momentum is his bestest of best buddies is Ivan Lerm, who tackles this obstacle at greatness speed. Gets through without getting the Jimny hung up, but he hit a pole with his speedy approach, so that's 75 points. This camouflage Jimny hails from Boksburg Suzuki, and JJ Buertas and Eric Calvary man it. JJ takes a slightly more subtle approach than the Jimny before him, and well, she ain't going anywhere with that cross axle. JJ tries a different line, but with the same result. Third time lucky, and with an extra dollop of momentum, he gets going and makes it all the way through. After hitting a pole and all those false starts, the team earns 55 points. We rejoin Tony van den Berg and Lynette Human at the last obstacle of the day, a relatively easy obstacle as Tony demonstrates with a good turn of speed. This obstacle also has an interesting environmental twist, as the marshal explains to the next crew.
Guys, this is Boompie. Remember, environmental points. Do not drive over Boompie. If you get close to Boompie, I'm going to stop you and I'm going to deduct 5 points for stopping you as well. Please do not drive over Boompie.
Wiki Susie or Colin and Susan are next. Let's hope they miss the beloved Boompie. And off they go and hit one pole. and then another pole. But amazingly, they missed Boompie, a lucky break for Doc Rautenbach and Nurse Carter.
Oh, no, I'm shaking like a leaf from the tree. It's like, no, it's a tough obstacle. Cross axle, and the poles at angles. It's not an easy obstacle. And then don't forget Boompie, the environmental.
He survived.
I don't even think I've touched a leaf on Boompie, so I'm very happy.
We conclude the day's 4x4 driving action with Ivan Lerm and Andries Kemp in a Jimny. And they score 100 points, the only crew to do so on the event. Well done, lads. Co-sponsor Opposite Lock provided patrons with a chance to get some winch action again, as they had to winch their own 4x4s up a slope with the Opposite Lock Ford Ranger's VRS winch. Special focus was given to safety, so all in all, this Opposite Lock initiative proved to be really popular and informative. And that was the end of the action. All that was left was to tally the scores. But before we get to the prize giving, a brief overview of the prizes up for grabs. The 3 podium finishers earn a spot in the 2014 Bridgestone 4x4 Club Challenge Final. Third place also bags recovery equipment supplied by Opposite Lock, while second place wins a set of 100-watt Opposite Lock driving lights. The winner of the event gets a 10,000 Rand tyre voucher from main sponsor Bridgestone. And then there's the overall prizes, to be decided in the final. Second place overall wins a 20,000 Rand gift voucher from Opposite Lock, and the overall winner will hook up a Conqueror camping trailer worth 50,000 Rand behind his or her 4x4. The 2,000 Rand Environmental Award, sponsored by Bridgestone, was won by JJ Buertas and Eric Calverley in the Boksburg Suzuki Jimny. In third place overall were Dani Tate and Vilma Ferry in their air-powered Suzuki SJ413, and in second place were Raymond and Anel Martin in their tricked-up Jimny. And winning the event overall in a nearly standard Jimny with no lockers were Ivan Lerm and Andries Kemp with an overall score of 750 points. Next week, it's the turn of the Nissan 4x4 Club, who duked it out at the Base 4 venue near Hardebeespoort Dam. Till then, the 4x4 Club Challenge was brought to you by Bridgestone.